Now I'm doing the plywood for the mill. I'm going to start off with the 3/4 inch plywood. I'm going to stick down where the mill is going to sit. I don't have a functioning table saw, so basically I'm just using the mill stand as for cutting the wood. I basically just screwed it down to here. I can't find my clamp at the moment, but basically I just took my measurements and added the distance from here to the blade, and just actually screwed that down too as a guide. So, alright. I also have a stand right here to hold up this edge, so it doesn't fall off or break on that corner. So, got my eye protection on. Alright. Okay, I got the width part of it cut. Now I just need to set up and cut the length. I'm going to cut it to, this is a 8.5, and now I just need to cut 2 pieces that are 23 inches, leaving the overall inside is 26. I'm leaving 3 inches for the drain going this way. So this is going to be a 23 twice, and then I can attach them to here. There might be a little metal sticking up where the brackets are here, depending upon the thickness of the wood. Kind of varies a little bit, but I'll have to notch a little in the plywood on the first one for it to set in here. Otherwise, I'll just maybe grind these down. So. Alright, one done. Okay, well, I decided that if I use 2 pieces of 3/4 plywood, there's really not enough lip right here. So I think I'm going to go with just 1. I'm either going to adjust the angle of the slope here, or I'm going to have to cut more of the wood out here as this slopes down. So, alright. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and screw this piece down here. I've got it clamped on this one corner because it has a tendency to shift when you go to put the screws in, you know. So, screw this corner here down. If I said this before, but they're these are self-drilling screws, deck screws. Hey, one thing I just realized, you're probably going to want to make sure that these screws don't align with the bolts on the mill. Otherwise, you're going to run right into these when you're drilling the holes to mount the mill. So, I'm going to double check that now. Okay, so measuring approximately where I'm going to be mounting the mill, I've got 26 inches on the inside. I figured if I center that on the mill, just leaves room to get back here to adjust that, the tramming the head, and room for the motor here. I'm getting the bolts are going to be around 5 or 6 and 14 and 15. 5 and 6, 14 and 15. So I should be okay with where I stuck the bolts or the screws there. So all right. Oh, I was aimed it the wrong way. Yeah, so 4, 5, 6, I'm clear. 13, 14, 15, I'm clear, so I should be okay. Okay, so now it's time to put the furring strip in that's going to hold up the plywood. I cut my furring strip to length. I put I cut an angle on it so it wouldn't hit the so I can meet the corner up in the corner like that, right? And made sure that the piece that I'm using is actually straight. Sometimes this stuff can bend a lot, so so I'm good there. This piece is straight, and what I'm doing is it's kind of hard to get a straight edge in here. I guess I can use a chalk line or something, but I'm just basically adding the dimensions that I need to the squares here and putting them on both ends, and that will basically I'm adding a 1/2 inch for the 1/2 inch plywood. So when I put the plywood, the plywood will be level up here, and I did that plus added the depth of the angle. And I'm just going to slope it from just basically the thickness of this. So hopefully that'll be enough angle. I really don't want to cut out a lot of the structure of this. So basically you're just going to line those two up like that and just nail these in. I'm afraid if I use regular screws it's just going to crack this. The best thing would probably just be with a compressor, you know. Okay, so I'm just using some tiny little nails like this. Shouldn't crack the wood. They're actually galvanized in case it gets wet, but yeah. Grab a few of these, put them in my pocket. Okay. Looks pretty good right here. I'll take these out because those are just going to fall over when I start hammering. Actually what I'll do is I'll make a mark on here so I know where I'm at in case it moves. Okay. Don't need a lot in here, just holding some plywood up. the fiberglass is gonna kind of reinforce it too once it's fiberglassed. So, oops. Okay, that looks pretty good. That'll just, I don't have the plywood cut yet, but I'll just kind of rest on there like that. So, and I'll do the same on the other side, the back side, and also around here, and then cut the wood to put in. Alright. Okay, well now this is funny. I'm actually finding myself using machining tools for framing. I'm actually finding the depth. I'm actually transferring the height, because the wood isn't exactly square all the way around. It's not like working with metal or something. Nothing's actually perfectly the right size, or some of it's crooked. So I'm actually transferring, using the level, transferring the height of this block here over to the other side with the level, and then adding the depth to it with this, transferring it over there. Then I can make my mark to put the other piece. So I thought that was kind of funny. So. Okay, well, one thing you wanna make sure before you go too far in this is to square your frame. Hey, Oliver, hey, boy. Want to say hi to everybody? Say hi to everybody. Say hi to everybody. Ooh. Say hi. Say hi. Okay, so right there, yes. Basically, I just took a piece of plywood that I knew was square, and lined it up with this edge, and made sure to line up with this edge. It was actually about an inch, half an inch off between here and here. I tried pushing it, but it wouldn't move, so what I ended up doing is just shoving it up against here. Hopefully it didn't break anything until it actually bent. And now it's square there, so I'll continue on with what I was doing, alright? Okay, so you can see I've got the furring strip installed there. And I cut the piece of plywood that goes in there. And I left a little gap in there. Just I didn't want it to be too tight, but I guess I could have been a little tighter now that I squared it up. But that seems to fit pretty good right there. Can kind of see the angle on it there a little better. So as long as this is flat, the water should roll down it fairly well. So I just need to attach this one and do the next side. Alright, okay, well I got the other side in, just like I did this one. And I cut the plywood piece to go down this way for the drain. And what I had to do is I had to cut out some of this metal right here. I thought about doing this before putting these in, but I figured it would be easy enough to cut it out with a grinder. But I think if I had to do it again, I would try to cut this out first. Maybe I don't know, what did I get? Maybe an inch and a quarter or something like that. It was a little difficult getting the grinder in there, cutting off the brackets. I was trying to get these exact level to be able to hold the board up, but I don't think that's all that critical. But okay, so now that I've got this board here already, I think the height right here, I could probably screw it down right here, and then what I'll do is I will put the furring strips in back in here to hold it up here and here. So I'll work on that, all right? Okay, so to make sure this board is actually going down on an angle properly and not like bowing like this, what I did was, because I can't really get a ruler, a straight edge or level in here all that easily, so I basically just took the board, put it up against the level to make sure it was level. I had to bend it in one spot a little bit right here, and it's bending a little bit to make it straight, so I knew this was level. And then I basically put this in here and screwed it down here, made sure it was meeting at this point over here, right here, and then basically just traced it underneath and pulled it back out, and it gives me my line that I can use for the board under here. And I'll just nail this board in here like this, and I'll do the same over there. So, alright. Okay, well, I got this board in, not completely in, I got a few nails in it, but it's held in place. I just put a couple of pieces of furring strip down in here, some 1x wood. I just got like a 3-inch piece and a 2-inch piece and nailed it up in there, all ready for this piece here to go on. It was a little bit of a tight fit, but I managed to get it to fit in there. I just put it on the belt sander over there. Excuse the place, it's a bit of a mess with this project here, but so that's all done. Just need to put a few more nails. I got to put a backing, as you can see under there, there's a gap. I need to put a filler in there and here, and maybe put a support piece under here, so that it's doesn't move down when I push on here. It's actually pretty kind of solid like that, the way it is, just with this one furring strip and this, of course, right here holding it. So, all right. After I do that, the next thing to do is to mill this. I need to drill a hole, mill a hole all the way through for the drain. Where my drain is. There we go. Just need to make one hole big enough for this to go all the way through. This is just a bar sink drain, so it's a lot smaller than the other kinds of drains. So then I gotta counter drill it for the flange right here. Now this flange is a little bit big for the size. This board probably would have been better if it was like 4 inches, but I went 3. It's you see it's a hair close to the edges there. But what I'm just gonna do is I'm gonna just grind the edge down here a little bit so it's not as big in diameter. It still will be able to seal fairly well, you know, if I knock off about a 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch on here on the grinder. So, all right. To get this piece up underneath here, to seal this and hold this up a little, I actually just made it a really tight fit. So you actually have to kind of press on it to fit in there. Not too tight that you move other stuff around, but, and I'm just toenailing it in. I'm putting the nails in as far as I can first, and then when I put it in this way, I'll just toenail it into the other 2 furring strips that are under here holding this up, while holding this, because if you hit too hard, it'll just push this up a little bit. But alright. You know, one thing I liked using about skinny nails instead of using screws is it gives you a certain amount of flexibility. Like if this is too high or too low by a hair, you can actually hit it. It'll sink down a little bit, and the nail probably bends a little bit, or it goes into the wood or something a little bit. But it gives you a certain amount of flexibility on high, you know, whether too high or too low or something like that. The downside that I don't like about using the ones with the larger heads like this is they tend to stick up a little bit here. I'm gonna have to get a nail set or something. So I don't know. I'd probably try to use like a finished nails or something instead next time I do this. But I have these now, so I'll just go ahead and use these. So, alright. Okay, well I got both of those in. Basically fills the gap, so that I'm gonna end up having to caulk all these holes around here so that the epoxy that I'm going to be using, fiberglass resin that I use, doesn't seep through onto the ground. So of course, after I get all this plywood done and stuff, I'll caulk that. Alright, and I'll of course the next step would be to drill the hole in here, mill the hole in here. I just thought I'd show you underneath real quick to see what it looks like under here. That's the furring strips there for that plywood, and the furring strip there and over there, and I got a little piece up in here, and of course the other side. Hard to film under here, but you get the idea. Alright,